So this girl, she has the courage to say, I'm taking this, judge me if you want, but this is what I'm taking. So I have respect for this girl because she's being open about it. Coach Greg, and I thought this was a really important video to do. Derek, he made a video on a teenage girl who was taking Rad 140. Okay, Rad 140 is a Sarm. She's taking the Sarm, and he goes over in detail explaining what are the potential dangers, the pros, the cons. And I said, I got to do a video on this, so I'm going to watch Derek's video commenting on this woman, and I'm going to try to add to it where I can. As you know, I've been a coach for over 20 years. I've coached many females who've used Rad 140 in the past, as well as other PDs. So I said, why not make a video, talk about it, add to it where I can, explain to you the pros and cons of different PDs that you can take, and try to educate people on this subject. So before you watch the video, remember Derek's already made this video, so I do suggest you go and watch his video from start to finish so that you can understand everything he's talking about. I'm not going to have the time to go over every single detail, so please do go and check out his channel on this exact topic. The title might be throwing you off a little bit. Idiotic teenage girl taking Rad 140, my response. I don't want you to think that we think that this girl's an idiot. She's being truthful and honest, and you have to respect her for at least being open about it. Imagine just how many people are lying to you. They're taking it, might not be Rad 140, might be Osterine, Anavar, Test, Trend, who knows? But they're keeping it a secret. So this girl, she has the courage to say, I'm taking this, judge me if you want, but this is what I'm taking. So I have respect for this girl because she's being open about it.
In here, she talks about unrealistic body image, standards that she can't live up to, and she wants to try and take Sarms to get there, essentially.
So how many of you can relate? We have unrealistic body expectations. We're trying to look a certain way, and it's essentially impossible to get that look and be natural, especially at 19 years of age. So imagine the pressure that so many people are faced with to try to get their dream physique, but to do it natural. And this is my problem. She's a girl taking Rad 140. Would people have the same opinion if she were a man? Remember Chris Bumstead? Mr. Olympia admittedly was on PDs as a teenager as well. How many people is shitting on Chris Bumstead? I don't see many, but yet this girl doing the same thing and criticized. Idiotic teenage girl. Did it say idiotic teenage boy when a boy does the same thing? I don't think so. So to me, it's a double standard that pisses me off because people are so quick to judge women for doing the same thing as a man. Why is there a double standard? I'm perfectly fine with people saying no one should do it, man or woman. No one should take PDs, you should all be natural. Perfectly fine with that. But if somebody criticizes a woman for taking something and not a man, that is where it bothers me.
Like, you can see she's in shape. It's not like she's an out of shape girl, but she's trying to, build up a physique that is presumably like high tier in the fitness industry.
So if you go through her photos, obviously she already looks good. She already has a better physique than 99% of women. Already has a high level physique, but yet she's taken Rad 140. It's going to help you build muscle at an accelerated rate. And it takes a lot of work to build muscle. You can't just develop an amazing physique unless you have ridiculously good genetics. In a year, it takes time. And for the most part, most people can't get an amazing physique even with 10 years of training. I know you don't want to hear it. People want to believe that if you work out hard enough, you'll get it. But let's be honest. How many people think that most women could make the Olympia stage while being natural? Do you think your favorite Olympia female is natural? Some are. Most are not.
I know it sounds like the worst one for girls, but Boston Lloyd actually said girls are good with Osterine or RAD, and many competitors use it. Apparently LGD is only bad for them.
A lot of people are saying, well, why is she on Rad 140? Why not do something safer like Osterine? But here's the real facts. Rad 140 is much stronger than Osterine, so you literally need less of it to get the same effect as taking Osterine. So Osterine, maybe it's safer, but guess what? you're going to need to use it in higher doses to get the same effects as Rad 140. By that I mean if you took 5 milligrams of Rad 140 or 10 milligrams of Ostrine, you're going to get more gains from the 5 milligrams of Rad 140 than the Ostrine. Are they both safe? Of course not. They're not supposed to be used by humans. It's a research chemical. You're not supposed to use that. But we all know some people are. And here's the problem. If you take either or and you look at your blood work, there are going to be changes to your blood work. AST and ASL liver enzymes are elevated or your cholesterol's out of whack. You can go back and say, well, what exactly was I taking, and was I taking it in a safe manner? So arguably, Rad 140 at a much lower dose, 5 milligrams in comparison to Ostrine at 10, probably going to have better blood work on the Rad 140 at 5 than Ostrine at 10. The only problem that I've seen some women complain about, not all, is that some people taking Rad 140, their hair started to thin out. They're in the shower washing and a couple extra hair strands are falling out, then is normal for them. So if that's happening to you and you're really concerned, then obviously you have to stop using it. But I'm not here to say to take anything. I'm just saying when comparing one to the other.
Anavar would be ideal, but literally any popular SARM aside from RD140 would have been a better choice, more education required.
And what about Anavar? Oh, she should just be taking Anavar. That one's safer. Not everyone has access to Anavar. Anavar is a steroid, an anabolic steroid that in some countries is illegal. We're not here promoting things that are illegal. So if your doctor can prescribe it to you, that's great. But if it's illegal, never break the law. So you can't just say, oh, you should be taking Anavar. Not if it's illegal. Ostrine, Rad 140, these are SARMs that are legal in most countries. And although you shouldn't take them because they're not for humans, at least they're legal, so you can see why some people are going to take SARMs over steroids.
Makes you like instantly stronger. It's like actually comparable to DHT-derived oral anabolic agents in some cases.
And frankly, Rad 140 in comparison to Anavar, I've seen more strength and size gains on the same dose of Rad 140 as I've seen for Anavar. A lot of girls and males, they're gaining more on Rad 140 than Anavar. So you can't just say, take Anavar over Rad 140. And side effect wise for females, I haven't seen a lot of masculinization from lower doses of Rad 140. Not saying it's safe to take, but I'm saying that from what I've seen, it's not as bad as you'd think.
So RAD 140, it actually has a long half-life, which is kind of odd considering how aggressive it can make you.
And Derek is saying that Rad 140 has a longer half-life than most people think, but listen, it's actually still pretty short in comparison to, for example, injectable PEDs like testosterone and enthate.
Anyway, the half-life is a lot longer than people think too, so when they traditionally do their PCT, they think that, oh, I can start my PCT tomorrow, it's gonna be fine. When in reality, the shit has not cleared out of your system yet.
And so Derek is right. You shouldn't start taking your PCT one day after you stop taking Rad 140, but 3, 4, 5 days later, yeah, you should start then. In comparison to testosterone and enthate, longer esters, you need to wait a few weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So yeah, it's not the shortest of half-lives, it's not the longest, somewhere in the middle, means you can get away with taking Rad 140 once a day, and once you do your PCT, 3 to 5 days, not going to be a problem for you.
For all the girls, the most tolerable steroid for females is Anavar. Pretty much anything else will result in developing masculine traits. Blah, blah, blah. I don't really agree with that.
Somebody wrote in that Anavar is probably the most tolerable steroid of all the steroids for females. He says, I don't really agree with that. I personally do believe that Anavar is the safest of all the steroids that you can take. And again, as I've said in so many videos, I am not a doctor, so don't go out and take Anavar. I'm not saying go out and take Anavar, but of all the steroids that I've seen, Anavar for me is likely the most safe, if you want to call it safe, for females to take, especially in lower doses.
SARMs have not successfully differentiated anabolic from androgenic activity, so these compounds, despite the fact that they're tissue selective, they're not free and void of androgenicity. There's still a risk when you're using them.
And overall, I do feel that most SARMs are less androgenic than most steroids. So especially for females that don't want virilization, they don't want a deeper voice, facial hair, enlarged clitoris, those kind of things, SARMs are probably safer for them to use. doesn't mean you can abuse Sarms without getting these side effects. If you start using higher doses, or if your body's just sensitive to them in general, even at lower doses, you can get side effects.
There's certain things you can do, which I broke down in detail here, but just to give a quick insight, some of the stuff.
So let's see what Derek suggests, and I'll give my opinion on those.
Clenbuterol, for example, often overlooked, seen as a beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonist. This is something that is often used as a fat burner among bodybuilders.
So he gives a suggestion of clenbuterol, and just so you know, clenbuterol is in fact a banned PD. So if you're taking RAD 140, you probably don't care about PDs, but if you're competing in drug-tested sport, you can't take Clen. Clen is a fat burner. He's saying that it can build muscle, especially more so in women. From my experience and from the women who I've coached, I haven't noticed any of the females who took Clen to suddenly put on muscle, at least noticeable amounts of muscle. Maybe, but I haven't seen it, and there is a risk to your cardiovascular health. Clen is not safe. It's actually one of the more dangerous PDs that you can take. A lot of people overdose on Clen. They end up a trip to the emergency room. They take the wrong dose, one dropper full instead of one drop, and they're shaking and can't control themselves. It is not safe. A tiny amount, you're using micrograms, not grams, not milligrams, micrograms. It's such a small amount, and if you overdose on it, you can end up in the emergency room. So if you do take Clen, be very careful about it and start at a very low dose, maybe 5 micrograms. I'm not telling you to take Clen, don't take it. But if you did, the less you take, the better. And will it in fact build the muscle you want to be a bikini competitor? Probably not.
Growth hormone, often seen as a, exotic thing that you should only be introducing after you've maxed out on anabolics.
And what about growth hormone? Yes, it's not going to cause virilization, so it's not turning you into a man, but I really don't think 19, 20-year-olds should start getting into growth hormone just because it doesn't cause them to turn into a man. There are other side effects that are not great from HGHs. Also, it's a banned PD, so you can't just use growth hormone, and it's very, very expensive, and it's not easy to get legitimate growth hormone. And I do think that 19-year-olds that are just trying to get that body that they want, they're not going to be open to taking growth hormone. Growth hormone, it's seen as more hardcore. Not sure if it should be seen that way, but it is seen as a hardcore substance. You have to inject it.
Even more novel agents, more recently introduced into the kind of, not mainstream, but like this, in just the fitness scene, like things like Ecdysteroids. I've talked about testosterone many times.
And 100% on board with Derek's suggestion to try Ecdysteroids, namely testosterone. It's not a banned PD. You can use it in any competition, whether it's the Olympics or your local bodybuilding competition. And most studies seem to support the fact that it does work. And in particular, I do believe it works even better for females. They have less testosterone than males, and a little goes a long way. In comparison, men need to take higher doses.
Even anecdotally, we see women having pretty favorable outcomes with it to a point that it's comparable to like 2.5 to 5 milligrams of Anavar.
Derek is suggesting that you might in fact get the same benefit as 2.5 to 5 milligrams of Anavar by taking testosterone. And you might be thinking, well, that's not much, 2.5 milligrams. Trust me, that will cause noticeable improvements in your performance in both muscle mass and strength. 2.5 milligrams doesn't seem like much because it's not for a man, but for a woman, it can make major changes.
When you start to get into like bodybuilding, of course, obviously you're going to be looking at shit like girls are going to be using Anavar, girls are going to be using low-dose NPP, girls are going to be using Primo.
And so Derek's suggesting that, well, once you get into figure, women's physique, bodybuilding, they're most likely going to be using other compounds, steroids, Masterone, Primo, NPP, and so on, that most people could get their dream physique without taking those compounds. Personally, I'm not that optimistic. I do think that most people will never reach their dream physique. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what I think. I think that most people's expectations, they're just too high. You're bombarded with images on social media, the perfect bodies, the amazing physiques, flat stomachs, and so on. So I do get it. You want to get your dream physique, and you want to do it natural, and you want it now. Problem is, it's going to take you many years, if ever, to get that. So if somebody is taking a PD to try and get that physique, try not to judge them. They're being pressured to do so and they want to fit in. So it's not that I'm telling you to take things, I'm just saying if you don't, it's going to be that much harder, and to please have realistic expectations on what you can achieve naturally.
99% of girls aren't going to want to even get to the point where they need the shit over here. They can get away with all this stuff with no androgenic activity and get, probably the physique they want.
99%, that would mean only 1 in 100 females are ever going to take a PD to get their dream physique. Look at any bikini competition, or in general, look at any woman that you think has that perfect body that you want to have. Chances are they're not natural. Certainly not 99% of those being natural. It's not even close to that. So I do want people to understand that most people that look amazing are in fact taking something. But yes, I do agree, Derek would say, to leverage other compounds that are less androgenic. Take the safer stuff, use it as much as you can, like testosterone or over-the-counter fat burners, things that aren't going to be as harmful as taking Sarms or steroids. Do the best you can, natural, take the least amount of products that you need to, take the things that are safe, and only when you need to, if you absolutely must, with the advice of your doctor, should you then explore PDs.
If you were to try and get these same outcomes without any of this stuff, with just anabolics, yeah, you're probably going to get into viralization territory.
So I do agree, and to summarize, I think what we're trying to say is to maximize the safe stuff and minimize the more dangerous stuff. Use as much of the safe stuff as you can and the least amount of the dangerous stuff, and you'll be the most likely to get your dream physique without the negative side effects that you don't want. So I think the problem is most people think the ones who are taking steroids are going to look like the jacked bodybuilders. They're huge. They look like Coach Greg. But in reality, most of the girls who have bikini bodies, they're not natural either. They just have different type of genetics. Those you see that look like Coach Greg on the Olympia stage, they have amazing genetics and PDs. But people that have the amazing bikini bodies, a lot of them have amazing genetics and PDs again. That is the difference. That is what I want you to understand, that just because your goal is to be a bikini style competitor doesn't mean that these girls are natural, and that if you're actually taking something to achieve that goal doesn't mean you're one of the rare ones that aren't training hard enough or smart enough. It's probably just that you don't have the genetics to get there without the benefit of the PDs. Hopefully that helps you in some way. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching, Greg Doucette IB Pro. Watch one of the bloops. Don't forget, I have HCLTSups.com. Lots of supplements you can get. And I do sell a cookbook or two, training books, coaching plans, you name it. Go to the website, check it out. And until next time, I am out.